It's in verse 30. Verse 30, the text says that Elijah called all the people over him, and once they got to him in front of the people, he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been broken down. The need to repair the altar would suggest that for well over 3 years, Israel has had no regard for the altar or God. Who would have thought that out of all of the places on the planet, it was there in Israel, God's holy nation, where the people had no regard for God? The raggedy altar suggests that, listen, the people are living in a raggedy condition and have raggedy relationships with God. Their lack of regard for the altar showed their lack of regard for God. When I first read this text, Deke, I thought, oh, how embarrassing that out of all places to have a raggedy altar, it would be found in the homeland of the people of God. Oh, how shameful that out of everybody on the planet, the Jews would have a raggedy altar. Well, I thought about that, and then it hit me that if truth be told, there's a lot of folk in here tonight. If we could see the altars of your heart, there's some folk in here tonight that came in with some raggedy altars. Why? Because they've had no regard for God. This lack of regard shows up. You see it when folk only come to church every now and then. I knew it'd get quiet then, because I got the right group now. Because it's some that are in here. Now, touch your neighbor and say, I hope he ain't talking about you. There's some that are in here that this is your special occasion. I won't see you again until Easter, and then I'll see you again at Mother's Day, and then hopefully you'll make it back here next watch night. And if you wonder why some folks' altars are raggedy, it's because they have no regard for God. These are the ones that won't come to worship. It's a lack of regard when you refuse to share the gospel with those around you. Your altar is raggedy when you work with folk and they don't know you saved. Your altar is raggedy when you go to school with folk and they don't know you're saved. That you listen to conversations and you participate with conversations, and never coming out of your mouth is anything that's for the kingdom of God. You've got a raggedy altar. If you're too ashamed to own him in public, you got a raggedy. But not only that, your lack of regard shows when you constantly refuse to come to study and learn his word. It shows when you constantly refuse to pay your tithes. Hey, I knew it'd get quiet there. But watch this in the text. They failed to understand that their lack of regard was connected to their lack of rain. Please don't miss this. They failed to understand that the reason they had no rain from God was because they had no regard for God. Elijah was showing them that their drought wasn't accidental. It's intentional. And I thought I'd come by to help some of you tonight and tell you, stop giving the devil all the credit. Because all the hell you catching ain't from the devil. There's some hell you're catching, it ain't from the devil, it's from God. Oh, man. You mean I'm in my dream? God sent this dry. See, yeah. God said, I'm sending whatever I need to send to get your attention so you will do right. And sometimes your drought is not because the devil's picking on you. It's because God is trying to get your attention. Yeah. The reason your situation done dried up is because God has removed himself. And I came to tell you, whenever God removes his hands, hell's finna break loose. Whenever God leaves the room, the devil's finna get busy. Whenever God steps out, ain't nothing good getting ready to happen. When God backs up, you're in trouble. That's why he tells Malachi over in chapter 3, verse 7, listen here, return unto me, and I will return unto you. The question is, are you ready? Nah. Some of y'all, it ain't got dry enough yet. Some of y'all, it ain't got hot enough yet. Some of y'all, you ain't got tired of being sick and tired. But for the rest of us, God says, when you're ready, return unto me, and I will return back to you.
All right. Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead.
However, in order for the rain to come, not only must the altar of the Lord be repaired, but secondly, the adversaries of the Lord must be removed. In verse 21, Elijah asked the people, how long will you be between two opinions? There were 450 prophets of Baal, and they've been preaching Baal. And Prophet Elijah wants to know, how long are y'all going to waver between God and Baal? Watch this here. The prophets have spread out throughout Israel, and they are preaching to Jews. Please understand that every Jew has been taught the Torah, which is the law of God. That every Jew knows what's required of him by God. However, these prophets have been preaching Baal, and they have led the people astray. And because the folk are now leaving God and following stuff they like, there needs to be someone to deal with the folk. Oh, please catch this. Yeah. Israel have left their first love, which is God, and they started to follow these prophets, and these prophets are promoting Baal. That leads me to just tell you tonight, you need to be careful who you let speak into your spirit. You need to check your surroundings, because everybody with a mouth ain't worth listening to. Let me come and get you. T-Mobile used to run a commercial a few years ago where they talked about having folk, your Fab Five, in your circle. What T-Mobile was doing was telling you that you need to pick 5 folk that you like to talk to, 5 folk that you talk to the most, and put them in your circle. And what T-Mobile was going to do, if they were in your circle, you could talk to them all you want. You could text them unlimitless, and you wouldn't be charged for it. And they said, listen very carefully, you need to select the 5 folk that you want to talk to the most. You remember the commercials that were with Charles Barkley and Dwayne Wade that plays for the Heat, and Charles kept wondering why Dwayne wouldn't add him as one of his Fab Five. But what the commercial was suggesting is that even though there are folk who are nice, they don't deserve to be in your Fab Five. Well, I came by to suggest, like T-Mobile, that before you go into 2013, you need to check your circle of friends and find out which friends you need to carry over into a new year, because not everybody who calls themselves friends are friends for you. And so sometimes you need to check your Fab Five. Yeah. Let me help you, because I've discovered there's some folk I had to let go of. There's some folk that I've decided can't be in the circle anymore. And so because I decided that, I had to leave them. And there's some folk I haven't talked to since 2011. But don't worry, I'm getting ready to make a new list, because there's some folk in 2013 that I refuse to keep with that I had in 2012. Listen, Elijah says, get rid of them. In verse 40, the text states that Elijah told the people to catch all of the 450 prophets and take them down to the brook Kishon and to kill them there. Well, I'm a student of the word, so I had to ask myself a question. And Mario, the first thing that hit my mind is, why they got to take him to the brook? It's going to kill him right there. Dead is dead. I had to struggle carrying somebody somewhere, but no, take him to the brook. And so you need to ask the question, why the brook? Thank you. Well, you'll discover, if you knew Jewish law states that any prophet has to be tried or judged by his prophecy. And if there's a prophet who is prophesying and his prophecy does not come true, the law deems that that person be put to death. I see. Come with me. Hang on in there. Catch this. Baal is the god of rain. It's going to sink in a minute. They are in the middle of a drought. And if they're in the middle of a drought, then it would seem like the God of rain would provide water in the drought. But 3.5 years later, still no rain. And so Elijah says, catch all the prophets from Baal and take them down to the brook. Now let me come and get you. If you read chapter 17, Elijah is sent to the brook Cherith. And at the brook Cherith, you keep reading, the Bible says as the famine went on, the drought went on, the brooks ran dry. And so let me help you. When they get to the brook Kishon, if there's water there, then that proves that the prophets aren't false. But if they get there and the brook's dry, that's the evidence you need to get rid of them. Because they've been preaching something that ain't came true. Let me help you. They've been preaching about Baal. And Baal is the god of rain. And for over 3.5 years, they've been preaching rain cometh unto you. But the problem is they've been saying it in the midst of a recession.
Go ahead, Pastor, go ahead.
Okay, the law says, get rid of them. And I came tonight to tell you it's time to kill some things. Watch this. There are some things in 2012 that you got to kill. You need to kill some habits.
Go ahead, Pastor, go ahead.
That's the one. I don't know. You thought of it as soon as I said habits. It popped up in your mind. I don't have to call it out. You already got it. Let's not embarrass you next to the person you sitting back. You know the one you know that one that you don't want nobody to know you. Yeah. That one that you don't want your neighbor to know that you're doing, unless that's the one you're doing it with. Listen, you know the habit that you've been saying, I need to quit. This thing gonna kill me after a while. I really need to quit. I don't have many more of these before something bad happens unto me. I came to tell you 2012, if you're ready to get out of the drought, God says you got to kill it.